Now, you may be asking, what is theater of cruelty? Well, it's a movement proposed and started by a man named Antonin Artaud. Now, anything you can think of, he probably did do it. I mean, this guy was a French poet, a theorist, a actor, and a playwright. You see, Antonin was a huge fan of surreal theater, which is just, I guess you could say, theater that focuses on out of this world imagery and just being kind of random at certain points. And he was a huge fan of it. I mean, he wrote poetry for it, he acted in plays, and it's probably that passion for surreal theater that eventually added on to what later became theater of cruelty. And it wasn't only that passion for like surreal theater that added on to theater of cruelty being created, but also probably his hatred or disdain for how standard theater was at the time. If I had to compare how he felt about standard theater, it would be how a lot of people feel about Marvel or MCU movies currently. Basically, he felt that standard theater was too safe, didn't really take any risk, too simple, too similar, and too straightforward. Basically, just too basic. Everything blended together into one. There wasn't anything really unique about them. And he wanted to go beyond that. He wanted to create something that will touch the feelings, just not the feelings, but touch the soul of a human, invoke that animalistic feeling, invoke spirit into someone, or touch their spirit, make them feel something. Antonin believed that humans were very repressed creatures, that we're constantly repressing our intrusive thoughts, how we actually feel, and we're constantly repressing our spirit and soul. So that's what the theater of cruelty movement was meant to do. It was meant to relieve our human spirits and souls. He wrote a bunch of his ideas and thoughts about the theater of cruelty movement in a collection of essays that were collected and published by Nouveau Rieu, Nouveau Rieu, no, Nouveau Rieu, Nouveau,
Nouvelle Revue Française.
which in English just means.
New French magazine.
Now, there is a couple of rules something must follow in order to be considered theater of cruelty. One is using a lot of facial expression and body language. Basically, to show how the actor is supposed to be feeling. Or sometimes it can give off like a sense of danger or security. Next one is interaction. There should be a bunch of interactions between the actors and the actresses and the audience, whether that be the actors and actresses actively mentioning or pointing to the audience, or actually like full on interacting with them, like touching them, for example, or making them kind of a part of the play. And then a lot of theater of cruelty plays, there wasn't really a stage, like in some of them. So literally, the audience would be in the play, like full on immersed into it. The next one is lighting, which is very important to any play, but especially theater of cruelty plays. Because the lighting is sometimes used to convey emotions, but usually it's really to just set the mood. I mean, if a play, let's say for example, is trying to scare you, the play being very bright isn't going to help. And the last one as well, being mute. Well, not fully mute, but very non-understandable usually. Like if an actor or actress talks, it's not gonna be understandable. It's kind of gonna be like gibberish or just confusing. And also like he wanted, instead of just talking, to use like signs, things with writing on it, instead of the actors actually like talking. There's a couple of theater of cruelty plays that represent the movement in a good way. Like they have all the blueprints down, but one of the best ones, of course, is the one made by Antonin himself. Now, Antonin's play was a play
Les
called.
Cenci.
It was a play about an old Roman nobleman named Francesco Cenci and his entire family. Basically, this guy was like the ultimate menace. I mean, anything you can think of, he did it. Like any crime you can think of, he did it. Including him even going as far as in YouTube friendly words, doing a term to his daughter that rhymes with grape. And eventually, the family, well, gets him killed. The way the play was written, it was written in a style where it would overwhelm the audience. It would make them question their morality, what is right and wrong, what is too far, and it would just overwhelm them. There is a couple of things you can take away from this play, but something I would like to mention is how the clothing looked. It looked very weird, I guess you could say, and that fits how a lot of theater of cruelty plays usually make their costumes. Their costumes are very, I guess you could say, almost surreal. Like, it seems something dreamlike, it seems out of this world, and to a certain extent, it's kind of disturbing. Now, Cenci came out around in the 1940s. So it came out around a time where Paris was going through war or had just ended the war, which means that most likely the people who went to see the play the most were probably just regular middle class people like us. And the play probably would have been relatively cheap since this was around the time a Great Depression hit Paris. So economically, everything went down. Even though the play was new and cheap,
Les
it
Cenci.
was a huge flop. I mean, it was only performed around 17 to 20 times before they stopped performing it. Even though the play didn't do that well, Theater of Cruelty and Antonin himself still went on to become huge inspirations for others. Sensory theater, which involves the audience interacting with the actors and being fully immersed in the play, was somewhat inspired by Theater of Cruelty. Antonin even inspired other mediums besides just theater. For example, music. He also inspired poetry. And Theater of Cruelty actually inspired some movies, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Suspiria, the 1977 version. I also think it inspired something else. I think it inspired analog horror, which is a YouTube subgenre of basically found footage horror. Here's an example of some analog horror.
I am the angel Gabriel. I've come to bring good news.
News? For me?
As you probably saw, it's clearly trying to emulate a VHS tape, and it also has some of the blueprints that we see in Theater of Cruelty. For example, very confusing ways of talking, and also just being very weird, very creepy. But there's a small niche of these VHS analog horror tapes that I think does it the best, and it's Five Nights at Freddy's VHS tapes. These tapes are made specifically off the game/brand Five Nights at Freddy's, and I think they capture Theater of Cruelty perfectly. The following clips I'm about to show all use the blueprints I listed for something that's representing Theater of Cruelty. They use lighting to set the mood, have little to no understandable talking. They use out of the ordinary designs. They immerse the audience or interact with them. They have just weirdness going on in them, and they make you feel strong emotions. And now, here's the next one.
It's time to go home. Home. Take me home with you. No, Chica. Baby bird. No, Chica. You're scaring me.
As you saw, they both use lighting to, well, mask the main character, I guess. In the first clip, they're mostly masked in darkness, and then once light is shown, they just pop up in front of the camera to, like, scare the viewer. And then in the second clip, they use darkness and lighting to basically make the character's eyes dark, make them seem sinister, evil, just like something is off. In the first clip, the animatronic doesn't really have I guess you could say, facial expressions. And the only thing that is expressing any emotion is its eyes, which looks sad or just really uncomfortable. And it also looks really realistic compared to everything else, so it's pretty disturbing. And the one time we do see someone with facial expressions, they're screaming, which obviously means something ain't right. While the videos can't necessarily interact with us because it's pre-recorded, the videos still can make us feel incredibly immersed, and that's what both videos did. By putting the videos in a first-person perspective, it makes us feel like we're almost there and we're actually facing off against this animatronic. Both videos also feature very not understandable talking or no talking at all. The first one has no talking, and then the only time we do hear something, it's someone screaming. And the second video does include talking from the main character, the child, but the animatronic is just constantly repeating a phrase, and it's just confusing. Both videos feature a pretty creepy design. I mean, one video has like a robot with its jaw completely unhinged and like no hands. The other video has a robot with no eyes that is just constantly smiling at you. And it doesn't help that they're both incredibly tall. And both videos probably, hopefully, invoked a strong feeling in you, whether that was anxiety or it was fear. Soon enough, there will be an even better example of theater of cruelty. The guy who made the second video, Battington, is going to be making one of his videos into a 360 perspective, meaning you will literally be inside of the video and able to control the camera. So not only are you getting a strong feeling out of the video, you're getting like the designs, you're getting everything, including immersion. All right, and that's it for the video. Hopefully you like and subscribe because I want money from YouTube, please.